You're all set. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'll call the Monday, June 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Barnstable Community Preservation Committee to order. This meeting of the Community Preservation Committee is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20. The chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting and to please make their presence known. Very good. Will you call the roll, Ellen?
Tom Lee.
Present.
Deb Converse.
Here.
Terry Duenas.
Here.
Catherine Garofoli.
Here.
Steve Robichaud.
Here.
Farley Lewis.
Here.
Lindsay Council.
Here. Thank you. Next item is approval of the minutes of the draft Community Preservation Committee regular meeting minutes from April 28th, 2025. I was absent, so I can't vote on these.
Okay.
Anyone have a motion on those?
Motion to approve.
Second. All right. Any other discussion on those minutes, changes, updates? Seeing none, Ellen, will you call the roll?
Tom Lee.
Yes.
Deb Converse.
Yes.
Terry Duenas.
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli.
Yes.
Steve Robichaud.
Yes.
Farley Lewis.
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Abstain.
Okay.
Very good.
Got it.
Next item, I'm going to recuse myself as I have a conflict here and turn the gavel over to Tom Lee.
Thank you, Lindsay. We have one letter of intent. The letter of intent has been received from BLT requesting $650,000 in community preservation open space fund in support of the acquisitions and preservations of 4.5 acres of open space land with significant conservation values adjacent to Barnstable Land Trust, Eagle Pond Sanctuary, and bordering Mosswood Cemetery, addressed at 304 Putnam Avenue, contoured map 037, parcel 010. This funding request is seeking to implement the second phase of the project by the permanent protections of 4.5 acres of the 9 acres property that was purchased in the first phase of the projects in January 2025 using general municipal funds. The total purchase price is $1.3 million, and the overall goal of this land protection projects is for the town to secure half of the property for cemetery purpose and to dedicate the remaining half to open space and conservation mesh purpose, subject to a conservation restriction that will be purchased by the BLT. The remaining funds will be raised by the BLT through private fundraising and state grant funding. Who's from BLT? Is Kelly doing? Oh, Janet.
Yep, Kelly will step in as needed.
Okay.
We're both here.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. So we have a lot on the agenda tonight, and I just wanted to say one thing about that, that we find ourselves in the really lucky position of having a whole lot of really wonderful land protection projects under agreement, and it's great and very exciting and an enormous opportunity and a big challenge for us to find a way to leverage our private fundraising. So we haven't, I think typically we come to CPC once or twice a year with a project, and now we have 4. Just want to name that. And one of the reasons we're in this situation is exemplified by this project. This project was the first one that I started working on when I joined BLT in 2017. And at that point, we were going to buy it for $500,000. Then the owner passed away, and it turned out there were 31 heirs, and it went into probate, and only just came out last summer. And back in 2017, we had been talking with the town and about, some joint cemetery open space use. So we were able, with the cooperation and collaboration of the town attorney and the town manager's office and a whole bunch of folks from the town, to actually make this project work in the very short time frame that we had as it came out of probate. So I think we have one map, Sarah, that I can show. What's really cool about this project is you can see really well on this map, it is kind of the missing connector piece that links to about 400 acres of open space, maybe even more than that, actually. So Mosswood Cemetery, Water Department land, Bell Farm, which is across Putnam to the south, basically, and Eagle Pond to the east. So really important for wildlife habitat, for connectivity, really important to the town for cemetery use. The town owns it, as was stated already. And a really great opportunity to add in a small walking path through the cemetery to the water department land. And Putnam Ave is a pretty busy road, but so we wouldn't necessarily be recommending that connection, but down through Lowell Park Woodlands for sure. So I think that's all I want to say with this map. Just a really terrific opportunity and really great partnership with the town to put a CR on about half of it. So I think I'm done with that, Sarah. Any questions?
Thank you, Janet. Questions from the members?
I have a question, Tom.
Hi. Go
Hi.
ahead.
Thanks, Janet, for submitting this letter of intent. I know that in your letter you reference it being phase 2. Could you maybe talk just a little bit, refresh everyone's memory as to what phase 1 was?
Phase 1 was the purchase of the property, which involved Barnstable Land Trust getting a purchase and sale agreement, because we could do that in the time frame that the probate court required, and then assigning it to the town, and then the town closing on it in, I think, January of this year. So that's what we were before town council with last fall, and was really an unusual opportunity because the town could use the Kirkman Fund, cemetery fund, to pay for part of it, and allow us basically to keep the whole thing open, but have a kind of unusual partnership and leveraging of public and private funds. So phase 1 was getting control of the property, which the town has done. Phase 2 is putting the protection on it, which is the CR process that's underway now.
Thank you, Janet. Catherine, any more questions? Hi, Folly.
Yes. Hi, Janet. I'm just curious as to whether you have any plans for parking or access to this property. I know it's a little bit tight down there.
So, yeah, good question. I don't think there will be parking on that property, but
okay,
potentially through the town, if they would allow it at the cemetery, or it'd be a really nice walk from Lowell Park Woodlands too. So I think there's a few different opportunities there, but Putnam Ave is super busy right there. It would be dangerous
Right.
walking there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Farley. Any more questions from the members? Speak up. I did not see any hands up. So what's the pressure? Do you want to approve the letter of intent?
I make a motion to approve this letter of intent and move the process on to full application.
Anyone second?
Second.
Roll call. Alan?
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council. Oh, no, he's
He's a recused himself.
Sorry, recused. Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you very much.
Lindsay, I'll pass it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Tom. There I am. All right. Next letter of intent. A letter of intent has been received from the Barnstable Land Trust requesting $307,500 in community preservation open space funds to preserve an ecologically important retired cranberry bog property consisting of 25.74 acres within the Great Marsh and Barnstable Harbor watershed, addressed 301 Parker Road, West Barnstable, map 176, parcel 019. The total purchase price is $615,000, and BLT will apply for a Mass Conservation Partnership grant in June 2025 to help fund the acquisition. The BLT will grant a conservation restriction to the town of Barnstable to ensure the land is preserved in perpetuity. Janet, are you on again?
I am. So this is a really wonderful opportunity in West Barnstable to conserve a cranberry bog up there, which is part of the Jenkins bogs. There's another 50 acres or so of bogs up there, and Fred Jenkins is really conservation minded and really interested in having his bogs not be developed. We've been talking to him for a few years. Another example of a project that sort of came to fruition sort of very quickly after having conversations over really quite a number of years. And so like many farmers, I think the family is interested in keeping the land open, has no other farmers in the family able to take it over, but wants to see it protected. So we have it under agreement for what we think is a very fair price. It's 25 acres. It's really beautiful. It is a favorite walking trail now already for some of the close neighbors and would continue to be. We would keep it open. There is parking available there already. It is really important ecologically because it feeds into one of the most important ecosystems on the Cape, the Barnstable Great Marsh, and there would be opportunity for restoration of the bog, either to a wetland or some other, kind of pond resource to help improve the water quality flowing into the Great Marsh. So our goal at this point is really to get control of the property, but we do envision some level of restoration in the future and certainly availability for passive recreation. And I think we have a slide. Right, so you can see that it also connects the Spruce Pond Conservation Area with land owned hundreds of acres actually by the town and BLT to the Bridge Creek Conservation Area. So again, another really fantastic opportunity for connectivity here.
That it, Janet?
That's it.
That's it? Any question from members
I have a question.
regarding this?
Janet,
Polly, you didn't have the end.
sorry. So
Go
Janet,
ahead, Polly.
oh, I think it's me, Lindsay.
Go ahead, Kat.
Great. So Janet, with the potential for a bog restoration project, like what sort of timeline does Barnstable Land Trust have in thinking about how to fund that? If it's in the near future, can you just talk a little bit about when BLT might approach that concept? Because I know it can be pretty daunting.
Yeah, and Kelly, actually, I might have Kelly answer that question because she's going through that now in her other role, working with Harwich Conservation Trust.
Yeah, so it's definitely a lengthy process that starts with that feasibility study that takes a closer look at the system as a whole, and then they're able to make recommendations on the different types of restoration that would be appropriate for the site. So yeah, absolutely a lengthy process that would be done in phases. You do the feasibility study first, and then after there's a design that's preferred, you would move on to a more detailed design period, and then we're talking just a couple 2 to 3 years just for that part of the process. Of course, all the while then seeking funding sources for an actual full restoration project. So I think at this point, and Janet, correct me if I'm wrong, we're really just maybe would even plan for a feasibility study phase where we could consider both, your typical wetland restoration that we see across the Cape quite a lot now, but also other options for restoration that might think a little bit outside the box from those ideas. And so very, very early days with that. There isn't any concrete plans for restoration at this point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I had a couple of questions. One would be, the surrounding properties are all on drinking water wells, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that may be an issue, but given that, it's not like other areas that has town water, digging up that bog and letting stuff go that has been held in those, in the bog area for years, that would be a tough one. Anyway,
Yeah.
And do you have an appraisal on this? Is this supported by the appraisal?
It is. I think the appraisal was just about what the purchase price was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terry, you waving your hand or swatting flies? Steve.
Okay, there we go. I don't know when is the right time for this conversation. I mean, certainly letter of intent, it's a great project. Would love to move it ahead to application, but at some point tonight, I think I do want to just have a small discussion about just the overall budget and what's on the table before us. And Janet, I'm so grateful for you getting ahead of that conversation and acknowledging that. I thought that was great, and thank you for that. You're such a great partner, obviously, and we value the partnership greatly. Of course, I'm not a financial guru. I'm not good at the financial side of anything, so I just look at the numbers and just get a little bit worried. And maybe there's no reason for me to worry. But Lindsay, just one small question I wanted to put out there: does Mark Milne is any part of his role to come before us and consult with us about the fund? If you take kind of all the recent applications and letters of intent over the past, say, 4 months, we've got almost 11 million in front of us. 3 million from Barnstable Land Trust, about 5.3 from DPW, 2.5 from the Housing Trust. So I just I get a little nervous, and at some point I think we should discuss it. I don't know if this is the right time, but I just wanted to make sure I put that out there on the table.
Certainly, anytime when you're considering a large amount of money, it's time to talk about how we afford it all. We do have some big projects on the horizon. One is the Marston's Mill School playground.
Playground.
That. Then I believe there's going to be a considerable housing portion of that, right?
Right.
So that would be a twofer. Then you have anything done over in Comacoot at the inn property over there. That's significant too. So when you start running these big numbers, plus we have my favorite project that never seems to get off the ground, which is the playground at Hathaway's Pond. We were promised when we turned down Luke's Love. So, there's three huge projects that aren't on anyone's radar in terms of budgetary stuff. So it's always appropriate to bring those questions up as we go through this series of exciting projects.
Just to respond to that, though everything you just mentioned could be a multi-million-dollar project. I mean, a playground's at a 1.2, 1.5 million a clip. Anthony's Comacoot could be a multi-million. The school could be a multi-million. I don't want us to overextend ourselves and then find ourselves in a tight spot. So anyways, definitely want to move these forward application. Always want to look hard at anything from Barnstable Land Trust, but I don't know if it might make sense to ask Mark if he could advise us a little bit on the overall health of the fund.
We could certainly ask these questions after this meeting and see what his thoughts are.
Right. Okay.
The other issue I have with this project is this is a multi-year project. We're all going to be long gone. Janet, have you spoke to the town manager about this and taken on the liability of a bog restoration? I don't believe they're involved anywhere else in that.
Well, at this point, we're just asking to get control of it, to protect it from development.
How many buildable lots are on the property?
At least one. There is a vernal pool at the entrance, which would limit some of the development, but at least one buildable house lot.
So 615 for one buildable lot. That's a lot of money. Okay, well, members, any other thoughts Catherine?
Lindsay, I have to disagree with you. There's a lot of land going right now for $600,000 for one buildable lot. They're trying to work on a project in P-Town, and it's $1 million for 0.6 acres. So I think the fact that going for 25 acres is pretty great.
Wow. Okay, thanks for that. Anyone else?
I just, as I always say, is about, we're supposed to spend almost a third on our targeted areas. And I don't think housing is anywhere near, certainly historic and land conservation. And that is always a concern to me. And I have asked Mark if we could have a pie chart, because it clearly shows where our money is going, and a report on how much would be left if we fund all these, plus an estimate of some of the other projects that may come up. And I just don't think housing is rating up there at all. So,
well, actually, fund-wise, Dylan and I did take a look at that, and we're all on pretty much an equal par. Believe it or not, the trust is in for another 2.5. So, they've been generating large requests there, and reporting back on that. So we're doing well with managing our funds equitably, I think. And Ellen will have to show them that. If you'd want to wait on some of these until we hear from Mark Milne specifically, we could do that. I don't think there's any need to get into something if people are uncomfortable about where we are money-wise.
Lindsay, can I just add something?
Sure. Yeah.
So I would say that in thinking about being equitable between funding housing projects and funding conservation projects, one thing that isn't being covered here is the fact that a majority of the conservation projects that have come before us are being matched with private fundraising. And so it's not just one stream of income for this purchase. Barnstable Land Trust is going out there and fundraising within the community to make this happen. Plus, they are applying for grants and things like that. In terms of affordable housing, each year we are providing $2.5 million to the housing trust.
It's been $2 million a year.
I know. So, but
good.
Barnstable Land Trust isn't asking us for $2 million on the regular.
I'm
Thank
not,
you.
I mean, I'm very happy to support the land trust, more than happy. I look mostly at historic because that has historically been our biggest, so far, from my intuitive assessment of the budget, our biggest expenditure with very little matching funds or very few matching funds, considering, because there are housing funds that are being matched. So yes, I like the land trust and how it operates and how it's planning and how it raises money. I think that's a really good example of a community partnership. And housing needs to do more than just use what little bit of money they're getting from another source and try to seek some more fundraising opportunities or do something, get some projects going. But
Yeah.
so I'm not saying no to the land trust at all. I'm just saying we need to be aware of what our percentages are.
Lindsay, can we show the percentage next meeting? And then
Yeah, we can get some kind of report from Mark.
yeah, and then
And the other thing to remember too is there's two things drawing on the open space fund, the recreation.
Yeah. Which is,
So that's a double draw on that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
with the cost of playgrounds,
that's crazy.
it's crazy. It is crazy. I will say as well, though, the matches in historic are nowhere near equal to
no.
open space, those kinds of projects. Nowhere even close.
Right.
All right. Well, so what do you want to do, folks? You want to move this to?
I would just say, excuse me, Lindsay, I'm not in favor of postponing any of these projects. I think time is of the essence in at least a couple of them. We've already approved a couple of DLT projects to forward the application to town council. So I, for one, am not in favor of waiting on the land trust request.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Lindsay, we should ask
Yes.
Mark to come next month to tell us his opinion whether we should bond some of the money, to fund some of this project stuff.
Yeah.
Just echo for Stephen's comment earlier.
Well, there's no question. We might as well consider that if we've got the Mills housing and recreation project. Anything happens in Gummerquid, we might as well begin the conversation more seriously.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
All right, so we still need to move this to application.
You had Terry with a hand up.
Yeah, I just have
Oh, okay.
I just have one short comment. We can only deal with what comes before us. We've for many years we've been unable to do a lot of housing projects because they never came before us, and the ones that took advantage of, they didn't take advantage of us, but they took advantage of community preservation money, is the town of Barnstable in their rehabbing of some of the buildings that they've had. Unfortunately, those to me are the least favorable to be able to fund, but they're the ones that are in front of us. And I think the important ones tend to be preservation of the environment and the preservation, the historical preservation aspect is important, but not as much as environment and probably housing. But the housing just hasn't been there. Hopefully with the committee, that will come up and that'll be a greater impact.
Good.
Thank you.
And the other nice thing about BLT in particular is that there are maps online about the properties where you can walk. So it's really a community resource. Historic, I said one time a couple of meetings ago, we'll market these properties. Who's going to see the jailhouse with the wooden bars, really? If they don't know about it, and they probably don't. DLT makes it accessible for people to go on and follow the maps that they post. So and housing. We need housing. We can't ship people in from from Fall River and New Bedford like they tried 100 years ago. So anyway, that's just my opinion. So
All right. Well, the one comment I would have for Janet is, would you run this by the town manager when you meet with him? Because, we can approve something, but they are the ones that are the doing people. We don't, approve surveys and studies and like that. So they would definitely need to be on board. I don't know who that would be. Probably someone in DPW would want to take this on. So I just don't want that to be a surprise at town council or later down the road.
Yeah. We have actually met with the assistant town manager for all of the projects. And, again, not thinking too far ahead, just trying to get the projects in our control. And then we will absolutely be working with DPW and anyone else who is interested on, the bog project, certainly on the Mill Pond Overlook project. They've been very involved in that one too. So take your point.
Very good. All right. Someone made a motion? I've forgotten already.
No. I make a motion that we move the Woodland Bogs Land Protection Project forward to application.
Is there a second? Stephen, thank you. Moved and seconded to move the Woodland Bog project to full application. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no hands raised, Ellen, would you call the roll?
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the applications received for this meeting. An application has been received from the Barnstable Land Trust requesting $600,000 in community open space funds in support of the acquisition and preservation of 13 acres of high priority ecologically significant pond front property on Mill Pond, addressed 3640 Falmouth Road, Marston's Mills, map 058, parcel 012. The total purchase price is $1.2 million and a Mass Conservation Partnership grant for $425,000 will be applied for in June 2025.
One in the refrigerator.
Barnstable Land Trust will own the property
That's flat.
and
You can
conservation
have it.
restriction will be granted to the town of Barnstable. Ellen, Janice, you're on again?
Yes, here I am again. And I just wanted to say thank you for your very thoughtful discussion. I know it was brief, but I really appreciate hearing your different perspectives on sort of how the money should be spent and understanding the value that and the leverage that we bring, being able to match the funds a couple times over with state money and private money, and really, really appreciate your support for us in the past and also for these last two, the two letters of intent. So thank you. So this project we talked about last time, and Sarah, if you want to show the slides, just as a reminder, this is the 13-acre parcel on Mill Pond in Marston's Mills. It's, again, sort of a really important connecting piece for both the town and water district land to the north and the west, and also the BLT land to the south, flowing into Prince Cove and Warren Cove. So if you go to the next slide, this just shows the, again, priority habitat for rare species. And that is covers about half of the parcel and also all of the pond area there. If we go to the next slide, it's also a critical natural landscape for the aquatic core. This is a little bit more unusual for us to have this category of ecological importance on a property like this. If we go to the next one, so we're checking, the really critical ecological boxes there, the connectivity boxes, and here is the water protection. So, it's in half of it in zone 2 and really right next to the zone 1 wellhead areas. And that might be it. Is there one more, Sarah? Yeah, that just shows the aerial, and I think I said this last time, but the mill pond, of course, is a herring run that goes all the way up, and the herring run all the way up the Marston's Mills River up to Middle Pond, where they spawn and then come back down. The DPW is doing a lot of work to figure out how best to remove nutrients from this very nutrient impacted river, and dredging the pond is one for which this parcel could be helpful. And also the potential dam removal is on the table as well. There's a study going on right now. So I think there are so many reasons why this is an amazing project, and we're really, really excited and happy to be at this point in it and ready to close very soon. So I think that's it for the maps.
Thank you very much. Any questions from members? Barley.
Yes, thank you again, Janet. I was just wondering, looking at the aerial map, it looks as though there might be trails running through there. Is that a possibility? Yeah. Okay. So
there are trails, and they connect to the trails through the Archibald property to the north, which go up to the neighborhoods, and we would be maintaining or improving those trails.
And they're currently used by local residents? Yeah. Okay. Well, that would be really nice to see an expansion of that network then. That'd be great.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. And there would also be opportunities for parking there at the end of Old Post Road.
All right. Great.
Anyone else? Stephen. Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, this is another wonderful opportunity. I'm just curious, how were you able to come across this opportunity? What's the ownership history? I love hearing the background.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that Lindsay and I have sort of been talking about for a long time. I think maybe back to the Marston's Mills River 3 Bays days, just because it's such an important missing piece. And we, sometimes with these projects, you build relationships with the owners over time. And that was certainly the case with this one. And it, again, came together a couple of years ago. The owner was willing to talk. We walked the property. They were very interested in conservation of the property and was patient enough to allow us to get an appraisal and, take our time to figure out the purchase. And, the projects are years in the making, like this one.
Yeah. Well,
you just got to be there, when they're ready.
Yeah. Yes. Well, great job to get to this point. Really great job.
Thank
Catherine, did I see your hand up earlier?
No.
Janet, could you? How long ago was the appraisal done, and what did it come in at?
Okay. It was let's see, I think it was 2 years ago. I believe it came in, Kelly's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was about 1.6.
Nice.
Yeah, it
And
was.
we're actually having the appraisal updated at the moment. It should be ready in the next week. Just obviously because we're applying for grant funding, we need to have a more recent appraisal.
Was it 1.65, Kelly? Is that your recollection?
I believe that's the number. I am going to quickly look in the file now.
Okay. It was higher than the offer, which allows the owner to get a federal tax deduction for charitable donation.
Very nice. Okay, anyone else? Questions for Janet? Tom Lee.
Janet, when you talked to the DPW, did they indicate any timelines as far as the dredging of the Mill Pond goes? And if they're doing that project, how is this property being affected?
I did not get a timeline. I'm not sure if they have a timeline. I think they're still in the permitting phase, although they have made some progress.
Because I heard about it a long time ago, and since then nothing happens. And I'm just curious, about the dredging project and the Mill Pond. That's all.
Yeah. We were talking about it in 2018 when we bought the Mill Pond Overlook project on the Route 28 side of the pond.
Right.
And the town has an easement there as well. And I think it all depends on what the dredging looks like and what it needs and, what access they need. I mean, one of the reasons why the Mill Pond Overlook property might be useful is because there's access from the road.
Right.
But there is also the Archibald property too. So there'll be some choices about how to use those properties.
Thanks, Janet.
Yeah.
I can carry that a little further, Tom. When we looked at this preliminarily back in the 2010s, when the notion was to simply dredge a small part of the pond, mostly the abutting property to the north, the edge of the property that abuts the Archibald, and then the northwest corner where the property levels off away from the environmentally sensitive areas with the areas used to dewater and conduct those operations. But now into the conversation is this new discussion where the state is restoring streams like this. And that's brand new. And that would be a significant project.
Right.
So we'll see. It would have to be, I think, dewatering through mechanization. So it would be probably a several cycle project, but be very interesting. If you can see the shape of the mill pond is through that last aerial photograph. I was very surprised. It used to look like almost like a witch's hat with the two sides and then the peak, but that's all eutrophied. That's all that water willow is completely down to the point of land. So there could be a fair amount of simply devegetation, much like what they did in Craigville, if you remember years ago, was getting rid of the woody vegetation first.
Yeah,
so it could be a very interesting project.
Yep.
Any other questions from members? Anybody at all? Anyone here else like to speak to the project?
I'll just confirm for you that I looked up that the appraisal was 1.495. So that was in 2023. So a little bit like that.
All
And
right,
also just the comment on the, we've drafted the conservation restriction that obviously goes along with the CPA funding request. And that is with the town staff and town attorney for review at the moment, trying as much as we can to kind of crystal ball what the potential uses for the property would be, particularly related to the mill pond, to the extent that we're kind of calling it a conservation restriction and easement so that the town does have the ability to use the property for uses associated with the pond.
That would be great. Any other comments, questions from anybody? Sarah, we have anybody who wanted to weigh in on this?
Nope, nobody for this item.
All right. Motion, anyone?
I move that we approve BLT's request for, hold on, let me get the number. Hold on, I'm looking at the maps. Sorry.
600.
$600,000 out of, I'm assuming, a combination of open space and recreation and undesignated funds for this Mill Pond project.
I'll second that. Any other discussion on the motion? Everyone clear on what we're voting? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Ellen, would you call the roll?
Sorry about that. Tom Lee,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next, we
Thank
move
you all
on.
very much.
You're very welcome.
Bennett.
Thank you. Okay. An application has been received from the Town of Barnstable DPW requesting $406,282 in community preservation, open space and recreation funds to revitalize and improve Katuitt Memorial Park at 889 Main Street, Katuitt, map 035, parcel 051. The total estimated project cost is $520,434, with $114,152 in capital improvement funding to be provided. The Katuitt Civic Association has requested the rejuvenation of this park that is a focal point for the village, connecting the library, waterfront, playground, and post office. And Richard, I think you're on for this one.
Great, thank you. Yes, hello again, everyone. I'll share my screen if that's all right.
Sure.
Your PowerPoint sharing is not turned on, so I can't.
You're all set, Richard. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, screen 2, I guess. And beginning. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Normal.
All right. Well, I won't bore you by going over what the chairman just effectively read, but part of this also, or a big part of it, is also ADA funds or ADA compliance that we don't have in the park. I'm sure you're all familiar with the park. It's a lovely little small town park. It almost looks like something you see on the back lot of a NGM, but unfortunately, it has over time just started to
You liked it?
deteriorate, and we have other side issues. I'm sorry. Did I? Did someone ask me something?
No, go ahead.
You're fine.
Okay. Good. Deteriorate, and we have other issues. So let me show you. So this is kind of a bullet list of things that are going wrong with it, but there are several things. You can see my mouse, right?
Yeah.
In the blue area, can you see my mouse?
Yep.
Okay, just want to be sure. So it's hard, and it can be hard to follow, so I apologize for that. But as you can see, this is the property line here on the top, this little chevron shape. And over time, there have been encroachments. All of these things are being dealt with separately by David Anthony in other issues. But two things happened over time. One, for reasons we don't quite understand, at least for the group of people that are in now, a playground was added on our property by the church that is to the left of this view. It is on our property. You can see the property line here on the far left, but it was built by the church. And also the library effectively built the second half of their parking lot on park property, on town property. Now this, we don't know if there was some kind of tacit approval given, maybe a verbal agreement by some prior town manager. We are uncertain, and this is something that's being explored. But all of this factors into what's going on here. So at one point, the library decided they were going to add steps that connected to the park, which is actually a rather nice feature. Speaks of the importance of the park and the importance of the library to the village. But it wasn't done by the town itself. And as you see, these stairs connect to nothing. They just kind of go onto grass. The flagpole in the center of this area, which is a very traditional, simple flagpole that can be lowered. You pull out effectively a bolt and you can lie it on its side, very almost ship-like, and have the flag. And there are two walkways. Again, I have my mouse in the middle here where the flag is in this circle. There are two monuments that when they were built, one is a World War II and a World War I monument. When they were built decades ago, more than a half century ago, they're stones, large boulders with bronze plaques on them. They faced the street. This encroachment has, and you will see in an image, really pressed on this one monument. The walks are no longer, never have been handicap accessible. The walkway to the street here on the far left side of your screen is not ADA compliant and actually goes onto another person's property. And then there was, in the lower right corner, a parcel of property that I believe at one time belonged to the fire department, historically, that has this little walk that goes nowhere and doesn't connect to the park, which we now understand the ownership of which was questioned. Who owns this? Now we know it belongs to the town and belongs to the village. And the trees, there are trees that have been planted here that are large and great, but they are deteriorated one by one. They are really beyond, become dangers, and they're really not all that attractive, unfortunately, at this point. So we have dead ends to monuments. We have this actual relationship with these stairs that was suggested but doesn't amount to anything. So with all of that in mind, and here again you can see this walkway, and in the center image what you're seeing is a blow up of this walkway. This circle represents a turnaround. It's a 60-inch diameter, a 5-foot diameter circle that is required to be able to turn around a wheelchair. And this little, this little dashed line represents the width requirement. And again, pointing out this no connection to School Street, because this is actually not on our property. So you see here that monument. Here's the parking lot, which is the bottom side of the parking lot from that view I showed you that is on town property, and how this new driveway, which is to the right here, has effectively really encroached on this monument. And you see here the walkways, this is going towards the street, that are too narrow and don't meet ADA requirements in many ways, not the least of which is that they're very bumpy. And you see the flagpole here, the deterioration of that center. More of these walkways, again, the parking lot that is on our property, and these trees that, although we all love trees. I hate to get rid of trees, but you can see the tree surgeon has removed things have been lost. We've lost large limbs. They're at the end of their useful life. You see the stair here on the left, and you see the backside of the monuments. So when we did some precedent research, we looked at other kinds of ways of dealing with communal spaces and walkways and all. We did a lot of research on how you create these kinds of contemplative spaces, but all of these seemed far too modern for us, beautiful, but we also don't have the kind of land required to have these types of amphitheaters and such, but they were on our mind and things we did look through. And we initially came up with a design where we relocate the monuments, which you see here. This is not the design we've kind of settled on to present to you tonight, but relocate these here, facing the street, so the same relationship that they once had is there, but now they're a little more centrally located, creating an axial relationship, joining up with this walkway down here. Something happens here. There are benches. We're not sure exactly what. I love the idea of there being a fountain or some kind of water element. And then, making this relationship in an ADA compliant way through our property back to the street and the school street. And here you see this playground. Also, this is a drainage culvert also put on our property by the library. But it is what we have now, and obviously this library is important to the community. A different view, we thought this was too large, took up too much of the park, and we like the idea of people be able to sit and read or do whatever they wish. This is a different concept we came up with, even almost a different kind of grass material, with the monuments located around. And by the way, there's another kidney-shaped monument in the original design, which was put in the grass about here. It exists there. It's a Vietnam memorial, a war memorial, rather kind of just plopped down nowhere. There's not even a walkway to it, that we thought we should rehome. This we thought, quite too many circles, too many connections. A thought, again, being a connection to this playground that we don't own. Of course, there are liability issues. Again, David Anthony working through those. But sorry, someone has come to my door. Another concept, a little more formal, I won't even get into it, but you see we went through many iterations. Also the idea of screening, that you'll see through all of them, screening this, but again, monuments in the center. And these are a few ideas of this and how this would be done in SketchUp if we had some kind of more centralized, make more of these monuments, make them more important, give them the focus that they deserve rather than at the end of a dead-end walk. And this is the one we have effectively settled on for now, but again, still requires more development. But we would have the monuments here around the perimeter of this central place. We have the Vietnam one here. One of the problems with it is it looks like a bench, and there are names engraved on it. And we thought, let's put that off so that people don't sit on it. You go up to it and you're looking on a bench, effectively, or that's how it can be perceived as being, with names of service people that it just doesn't seem dignified to be sitting on it. But these monuments would be removed, restored. We'd put a statuary finish back on the bronze, give them a sense of importance, create an axial relationship with the flagpole, with the monuments, but effectively have the same concept that was originally there. Keep these original landscape areas that were there, but there's a little more of a connection to these monuments, and they're more important around the flag. Recreate this walkway. We will probably leave in place, because we simply don't have the money to remove it, the asphalt walkway that is there, but have a brick pathway, brick pavers that connect to the street, School Street, in an ADA compliant manner. And then when we get here, become a little more relaxed, a little more of a serpentine walkway that goes to this. We keep this relationship that was here all along, which is kind of a cut through, but have another place here where one might sit, with benches along the way in various locations. And you see it here, a close-up with both monuments, World War I, World War II, Vietnam here in the center, benches to sit and contemplate. Same here, but again, don't sit on that. And create a little bit of a place where you land, where you come down these stairs. So the whole idea being to keep this very much what it was in concept, but give it more meaning and more focus, but never lose the idea of this little park, this little memorial park. I'll go through, I can read these to you, but how is it consistent? It does state in the comprehensive plan that the library and Memorial Park are central to village life, certainly what's going on in this place. And preserving this park really is a crucial part of the character of this little village. It's very sweet. Again, it's almost movie-like in the way one perceives it. And it will also make what was previously a not accessible space accessible to everyone, along with the improvements to how it all works. This has received endorsement by the town manager's office, the Katuitt Civic Association, and we do have a good track record of maintaining our projects and doing it within the allotted budget. And the money we're asking for, there would be 22% would be coming from our capital funds. This is the schedule. I won't bore you with the details, but it would be hopefully finished between September of 26 and we'd love it to be done by Memorial Day of 27, where we could rededicate these restored monuments. Here is the budget for it, and what's eligible and what would be capital funding. It's a $520,434 budget. And just as an aside, we just got bids in for Centerville Playground, which was, I think, 4% over our budget. So we have a track record. That's a very complex project, much more so than this. This is a letter that we received from the Civic Association, really saying that they would like to move forward with this. And should I stop sharing, or do you want me to go back over any prior slides?
I think we're good on the slides.
All right. Now you have to look at me.
Yes. Questions, members?
So what
Catherine?
happens? Go ahead, Catherine.
Thanks for the presentation. I think that it is a park that's key to downtown Katuitt. My questions for you are, I think it's amazing to make this park ADA compliant, but could you please tell me a little bit about, are the sidewalks that these paths are going to, are they ADA compliant as well? And then my second question is, the brick paver walks and things like that. What is the town trying to do to make this more impervious or less impervious?
Well, you said it right there, partly in your question. The brick pavers, they do allow water through. They're not a solid surface like an asphalt, aside from also being attractive. And they're placed on a stone dust base, and there's just this two-part base, but all of that allows water to pass through. So that's always in our mind, again, beyond the aesthetic issues associated with it. The sidewalks around, I didn't evaluate them, we've walked them, but yes, they have curb cuts at the corners that allow for wheelchair accessibility. So they are paved. So the ones that surround the park are, as far as I understand, ADA compliant. They're the proper width that they are. I'll tell you, ironically and sadly, the driveway up to the library that they put in is not. Unless you drive up there, you cannot get up. The grade is just so steep that you can't get up there without driving into the parking lot. But so in that way, yes, we always try to be very green about these choices. So those are one reason we use those materials. We're not big fans of asphalt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deb, did you have your hand up there a second ago? No?
No.
Anyone else? Questions? Stephen?
Yeah, I don't have any questions about the project. it seems like a great project, very well thought out. It's just the same conversation that I'm going to probably keep bringing up, which is, I count 6 total DPW projects the past couple of months and coming up, totaling 5.3 million. So, I personally want the opportunity to ask Mark his opinions before we approve this application, because, if I had to prioritize these projects, I don't know if this would be at the top of the list. It's very important. There's no question about it. But the park is there. It works. It's fine. You know what I mean? Yes, this is important. Want to get it done, but would I have this at the top of the list? Probably not. Do we need to prioritize because of how much money is on the table? Possibly. And my instinct is to continue this, let Mark talk, let us ask Mark about the big picture, and then consider moving it along. So that's just kind of my personal opinion. There's just so much from the town with DPW, and I don't know if they have more projects that they're going to come up with. Having actually both Marks, Mark Milne and Mark Bernaccio, at next meeting to really get the big picture and ask those big questions would make me feel comfortable before giving this the rubber stamp. So that's just where I'm at.
And I will, if I may, I will say that you can be certain there are more projects there. There always are. I mean, it's a, as you know, we're a town, but technically we really should be a city. It's a pretty big place, and with the budget of a city. So there are always these, in a historic one at that, so there are always these kinds of things, this being really a historic park. The only thing I would add, and I understand that we come with our hands out quite often for all valuable projects, but the communities they serve, the villages they serve, are always very appreciative. And the one thing I will say, I've been here almost 4 years now. This is the only Cotuit project that we have on our backlog or in the future. The village really very much keeps to itself and is very in that way. And this truly, it's been around since I started in August of 21, but it is the only project we have in the books, or even for the next ask that we have, is this park project. So it's a quiet place, as you know. It's pretty far afield. It doesn't have a lot to offer tourists, right? Except that little store, and that way it's spectacularly beautiful. But it's very much, and I think they like it that way, introverted little community that the people that live there love, cherish, and I think they're rather happy in their somewhat solitude because it's so far afield. And it is the only ask they've ever had for us in my time here, and the only one I see on our list of projects. So I'll just leave it at that, but
All right.
We'll take it.
Thank you. Well, we've had other asks in other areas through Cotuit, so they've been well covered.
Yeah.
Stephen, you want to?
Just one more thing. Yeah, I mean, and again, great comments, and really great job with this. I love the design. Clearly a lot of work has gone into this, very thorough. I personally love the layout. And for me, and I think probably everybody here would agree, this isn't for me about yes or no, because I'm 1,000% a yes. I love it. For me, it's simply about the timing. Do we just delay this one meeting just to get a little bit more information? But I'm all in. I'm a yes. I just, kind of wonder about the big picture, and if maybe we just, pump the brakes just slightly just to get some of those bigger questions answered. That's all from my standpoint.
And that's what I heard from you, just to be clear. I hear your enthusiasm for it as a project. So thank you for that.
All right, thanks, Stephen. Anyone else? Tom, do I see a question? Yes.
Yes. Richard, from your presentation, you kind of mentioning that you're going out for bid, 26, right? Sometime in 26.
It would be correct. Sometime probably the summer of 26. Yes.
So with the current estimate, how much contingency did you put it on? And you just mentioned it in the Centerville's playground that you're 4% over your budget stuff. I'm wondering whether you have enough money to bid it out next year to cover it.
Mark is very good. I mean, we're happy that we're 4%. I mean, we can absolutely make that work for Centerville. So that, it's a very, very expensive project. No, Mark builds into these things an increase, and we are. I'll be honest, I can't explain it to you because I've always hated budgeting, and Mark gets it. I really do. Mark nails it when we just get those budgets, like, how did you do that? And so he modifies it as the years go on, he plans it, and so it's really built into it. And there's always something that we can do to make it happen. But we are effectively very close to being on budget with these projects. So that would be a question best placed to Mark, but he would tell you that he's got that effectively built into it.
Wow, he has a better forecast than me. I mean, I'm trying to budget it, but since COVID, my budgeting estimate is out of whack.
I'm with you. Listen, as an architect, I get to a point where I would tell clients, if you want a budget, if you want an estimate, you have to hire a professional estimator, because I can't tell you what the price of copper is going to be tomorrow, let alone in a year. But I don't know what Mark does, but he's really quite good at it.
All right. Any other questions, members? General sense from Steve is he'd like to see us get Mark Milne here to share his wisdom on finances. Anyone else weigh in on that, or?
I think that was a real good point, Steve. I appreciated that because I wouldn't say no to this project at all, except where are we with all the recreation? I mean, every village has to have everything that every other village has. So at what point is this over the top? Too much. So maybe answers would help decide that.
Okay.
You're saying you'd like probably Mark Marinaccio, the town architect, to be in that conversation as well?
For me,
right?
yes.
Yes.
That would be great.
I'm sure he'd be happy to be, yeah.
So any other comments? Terry, Farley, anybody?
Good.
No? Want to continue this
Do we
to
need
the
a
next meeting?
Yep.
Do we need a vote or anything, or can we just?
Yeah, I can make a motion on that. I move to continue the item from Town of Barnstable DPW requesting, let's see, $406,282 in community preservation, open space, and recreation funds for the revitalization of Katuitt Memorial Park located at 889 Main Street, Katuitt, map 035, parcel 051.
Second.
Moved and seconded to continue the request for the Katuitt Park to the next meeting. Any other questions? Any other comments out there? Seeing none, Ellen, will you call the roll?
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard, and we'll set you up for the next meeting.
Thank you very much, all of you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving forward with applications. An application has been received from the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund Board requesting the transfer of a total of $2.5 million in community preservation, community housing, and undesignated funds to continue to prioritize strategies and actions to address the severe housing shortages that Cape Cod continues to experience. Jillian was here.
Greetings, Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you.
I see Laura Schufelt, one of our trust board members, is always in the audience as well and may wish to participate. I don't know. So I think a little bit different. This presentation is just, it's more generic. The applications that you've had before you are site specific. This is the trust is the Community Preservation Act, and your funding is the primary source of funding for the trust. And so we come before the trust, or the Community Preservation Commission committee, either once or twice a year, asking for funding. And I will just zip through some slides to sort of get you started. Oh, okay. Sarah's got me. All right. So this is just to update. I can move to the next slide, Sarah, if you'd like. Okay. So this is just, I wanted you to acknowledge that our Board of Trustees, Barnstable is extremely privileged to have extraordinary and knowledgeable and experienced leadership. Your members are state recognized. The representation has been consistent, and its leadership is, as I've said before, affordable housing is a very complex issue, as well as economic development. These things are very complicated, and you are blessed with having multiple members, primarily through town staff and through volunteers, on your trust that know these issues and can help us through them. So the municipal trust is a tool. It's a financial tool, and that is how I'm going to lead on. So the next slide. This is just to update since I came before you in April, which some of these slides may be repetitious, but I think I've tried to update them. And it's primarily just given an overview of where we are now as opposed to 1 month ago. Next slide, please. So this, I wanted to touch on what area median income, what is affordable for area median income. And I apologize for my slides. I'm not good tech savvy, but I wanted to show that the 100% of area median income is, and this is done for primarily a household of 4. So this is not everyone, but it is an average. So the median for 100% AMI, this is a household of 4, is $124,100. And what I did is I just wanted to show over to the side the affordable goal. In other words, what we're trying to do is have households not expending more than 30% of their income on housing. And the reason that is used is because when people start spending more than 30% of their incomes on one item, their housing, they're not having the income available for other costs, household costs. So I over the last column, this is the rent that I tried to show you what an affordable rent would be for a household of these different percentages of area median income. And the next row down is 80%. That's what we call moderate. It is what the state considers affordable. So you can see that the area median and the 80% area median income is $106,800, and that is for a household of 4. So if you look over to the right-hand column, the rent or the housing costs, and this is again 30% of that household's income, would be $2,670. And those numbers, those numbers are including all of the household costs. So that would include things like heat and utilities, and so that's about what a household should be targeting for available for their housing costs. And I'll just move on unless there's any questions on anything of that. I think everybody on your committee recognizes and understands that. So I'll move to a next slide unless there were questions. So this is just to give you an example of what's available out there for housing and what is affordable. I went on the realtor.com today, and Laura helped to guide me with that. As of today, there are 12 units available in Barnstable, and these are listed as averages for what is available. And if you look at the rents, that's the bottom, the row across the bottom, you can see that those are all over $2,000 per month. So that those are in excess of what people should be expending. And these increases, the average increase for rents has been about $200 since last year. And that's, as people all know, that's not the only thing that's gone up in cost. Next slide.
Jillian, real quick,
yeah.
Before you go on to that, Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Certainly.
Okay, just on your prior slide, if you don't mind.
Your slide, Sarah, please.
Is this all 12 affordable units currently available in Barnstable?
No, I wanted to express this because this is when a person is looking for housing, they go to various places to look for housing. This is what is all of the market available in the town of Barnstable that is listed on realtor.com. These are the units. And these are rentals though, not so I'm not looking at home ownership at this moment.
Now, is it possible that there are market rate apartments available right now that aren't on Realtor.com?
Yes, that is quite possible.
Okay.
But what I wanted to do is give you a snapshot of what the average person finds when they go looking for a unit.
Yeah, I mean, this shocks me when you think about Hanover 1 and, you know, I think they're around 70%. You know, if you think about a lot of the other ones, 850 Barnstable Road, or I'm sorry, Route 28. It's very surprising to me. It's just very surprising that it would be that low.
Yeah.
They're just not affordable, Stephen.
I know, but this is all units available. But no, you definitely make a point with this slide. There's a lot fewer than I expected.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sarah, I'm going to move on to the next one then, if that's all right. And this is just, these are just the observance, what people are seeing for housing indicators. The demand for housing is still outpricing the supply. The lack of year-round affordable homes for rent or ownership that's out there anywhere. And builders are producing new units, but the units generally that they're producing are not affordable to the average person or the average wage earner in Barnstable. So most local wages are not sufficient to cover the rents of over $1,200 a month. I'm sorry. Most renters are spending over 30% of their income on just housing. And that doesn't include, those rents, of course, are not mostly including your heat and your utilities. And then the wait lists for deed restricted affordable units, these are the ones that actually are affordable, is between 3 and 10 years. It's a very, very long, depending on the size of the unit that you need. People, they're not available. So there are very few vacancies in the year-round units, and there's very low turnover. So the lower income units and households are leaving or not coming to the Cape. So that's just the observable situation. And I don't know, does anybody have any questions or comments? But I can move on then.
Sure.
Next slide, please, Sarah. So this, again, parent implications. When household costs continue to rise, household income available for housing expenses shrink. So we all know this with our own home budgets. And recently, obviously, people are experiencing inflation as well. And there are many costs. It's not just rent and household expenses. It's other costs that are going up. And this, when you're spending more than 30% of your household income on your housing expenses, you don't have any safety net, and anything can come along. You can have a car failure, you can have a health issue, and that's the nature of it. So the household wages and the incomes lack the cost of available housing. I did want to also state that the median wage for Barnstable, 2023, $65,547 a year. So the distinction being is that's the median wage of, in other words, all people earning wages. That is the most frequent number. That's the middle of what you would of all wage earners, 65,547. And when we go back, if we went back to the other AMIs, you see that's below 80%. So then the need to subsidize the production of units that are deed restricted for ongoing affordability is going to continue as prices continue to rise and unless prices were to go dramatically down. And the gap between market rate units and affordable units continues to increase, as we've observed, indicating that the subsidy amounts may have to go up. We would need greater subsidy amounts to incentivize the inclusion of deed restricted units in the development of more affordable units. Next slide. So I just wanted to add this. As you know, your town council is very much aware of this issue, as we all are. They created a subcommittee to assess and recommend strategies for housing creation within the town, presented their findings and their recommendations on May 15th. And I'm just going to list, these are the 4 items that they had recommended. Submit a home rule petition to create a transfer fee on high value home sales to secure an additional funding stream for affordable housing. So that's a potential assistance towards creating more affordable housing. The use of town assets, including buildings and land for affordable housing. Mm-hmm. And to prioritize housing staff and the monitoring of subsidized housing inventory. And 4th, the create a regulatory structure for short-term rentals. And I'm not going to delve into these. I'm just going to go to the next slide because there is a second. Sarah, if you would, to the next one. So this was a second town council subcommittee that was focused on assessing and recommending strategies for zoning and regulatory agreements. They also presented their findings on the 15th. And I won't delve into that because those are different tools for housing. But I did want to point out the second recommendation listed there, revisions to the inclusionary zoning ordinance. That's one that you folks had pointed out at your last meeting with me. And the 4th one, short-term rental regulation in single-family residential areas. That's consistent with what the subcommittee on the housing strategies came up with. And I'll move to the next slide. So this is really the bottom line is that as of the end of the year, the trust had a balance of about $800,000 left from the funds that you have previously transferred to the trust. So we have left uncommitted funds that would potentially subsidize 6 additional affordable units. And that's based on the trust adjusted its caps for how per unit what they will subsidize. So $100,000 for units that are targeting area median income, and $150,000 would be the cap for units that are below area median income. So we're subsidizing more when the rents are lower, obviously. And I guess I'll just move to the last, is just my last slide, Sarah. This is just, I wanted you to have this, and again, we can come back to this if you want, but this is the list of the projects that the trust currently has going and has completed. So there's, I'll stop there, and I think that my last slide is just to ask for questions. So, and please feel free to delve in, and we can go back to any of those or different issues.
All right, members, questions for Jillian? Stephen.
You know, I do. I mean, I've got 4 topics. I'm going to try not to take too much time, but it would be irresponsible of me not to dive into all the topics that should be talked about. You know, before I get into those 4 topics, the inclusionary absolutely has to be reformed. Where we have it now is completely outdated. It doesn't match the reality of our world. And, you know, we've got to see action from town council. I know the planning board is a willing partner in that. So we've got to make something happen. You know, the first topic I wanted to touch on, I've touched on this before, is just trying to find a way to help first-time home buyers. I think most of what the trust has done has been centered around rentals, like apartment rentals. I really would love to see some sort of a program for first-time home buyers. That's how I got into my first home. My first home in 2014 is about 1/3 of what it's worth right now. So think about how much the world has changed. And I would not have gotten into that home had it not been for a first-time home buyer program. And if I had not gotten into that home, I don't know if I would have ever been able to enter the market at all. Because once I had that home, then that got increased in value, which allowed me to sell that and move up. And that's what life's all about. You got to get in the door. So we've got to come up with a first-time home buyer program, I think. You know, I don't know the legality of the, is this discrimination or is this not? But it'd be amazing if it could benefit people who grew up in Barnstable and work in Barnstable and want to live in Barnstable. I hear people comment all the time about, well, where are these people going to go? The Cape is full, Barnstable's full. We're going to invite more people down here. Well, hold on a second. If somebody was born here, grew up here, went to high school here, and then went to college, and now they want to come back and live here, that's not a new person. That's someone that's born and raised, and they deserve to have a home here. So when I think about home ownership for a first-time home buyer, something to help them with their deposit, something to maybe pay their first 3, 4, 5, 6 months of payments, something to do a rate buy down, a quarter of a point, a half a point. Again, I haven't done the math on all these, but if the trust did 10, 15, 20, 25,000 per transaction for a first-time home buyer, that would be incredible and could make all the difference. So that's topic number one. Number two is, I'd love to hear the conversation about future funding sources. Do you happen to know the recommendation for a transfer fee? Is that a flat figure, or is that a percent of the transaction amount?
That would be a percent. Well, that's the recommendation. Laura's got her hand up, and she was helpful with that committee, so I'm going to leave it to her.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, is it okay if I answer the question? The transfer fee is a percentage above a floor. So different communities have home rule petitions pending. There's also legislation pending that would allow seasonal communities to do that. It hasn't passed yet. So, for instance, it could be $1.5 million floor, and anything above that, 2% would have to be paid to a housing trust. Some on the Vineyard are suggesting to do anything above the average cost and have that identified twice a year, and anything above that. So there's two variables, and it will be up to the communities where those two variables are arrived at.
That's great. Thank you for that. And a tiered approach, I think, is a great idea, and it's a wonderful recommendation that came out of that. And then it was mentioned to have more of a regulatory structure for short-term rentals. That is a very difficult and controversial subject to tackle, but if a small nominal fee could be put in on short-term rentals to go to the trust, again, we need every possible source of revenue we can get, no matter how small. For me, my third topic is just talking about market rate versus affordable. If the items or the projects that are currently permitted, plus, I should say permitted and approved, plus Hanover 2, right? If all of those are built, I think we're going to get to a point where I really feel we should be kind of happy where we're at with market rate. And now we should try to figure out how to shift the conversation to maybe less market rate and more affordable, more workforce. So I hope that conversation keeps going. If the only way we're going to get affordable is if we build 90% market rate and 10% affordable, it's too much, especially if everything that's approved in Hanover 2 get built. That concept is just too much. It's just a little bit too extreme. So that has to be reworked. There's got to be more focus on the affordable unit creation. And then my last topic is what I brought up last time, which is having, this was a normal meeting for us at 7 o'clock. I'm taking a lot of time here, and, everyone should have the opportunity to have ample time. So I would really like to see 2 additional standalone CPC meetings to just talk about the housing trust and the housing conversation. That's all we have on the agenda. We have different guests. I mean, obviously, this is just my idea. This is with the, obviously, the blessing of the chair and with consensus of the group. But that's what I would like to see, just to give the topic more time to be discussed. I think we need more active discussions. And then again, there's an open seat on the Housing Trust. I feel with CPC providing the vast majority of funding to the trust, that seat should be a member of this committee, nominated by this committee, and voted upon by this committee. It might be out of left field. It might not be something that's written in, but I feel like it's an idea, and I would love to hear, council and the town manager's opinion on that. So I'm sorry for taking so much time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jillian, go ahead.
If I could, through the chair, I did want to relay back, Steve, that our attorneys, they have stated that the Community Preservation Committee can make recommendations to the trust, but they can't participate in the trust deliberations. So they do view that as two separate bodies with, you also are you're allocating funds to the trust. It's not quite a check and a balance, if you follow what I'm saying. And
not entirely, only because we used to review and approve the projects ourselves. So I don't know if I entirely follow, but I am not a lawyer.
I guess the point would be, through the chair, just to follow on that. So if the funding is coming directly from you, that's different. If it's coming through the trust, it's a different body.
It needs that additional level of oversight. Oh, okay. Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else with a question for Jillian?
I have a question, Lindsay.
Go ahead, Kat.
So, Jillian, thank you for the presentation. I was thinking about your last slide where you had listed completed projects, projects pending, and things like that. In the 3 projects that were completed, 2 of those projects are outside of our town. Is that correct?
2 of those projects are out of the town, and there are now 2 completed projects, 850 Falmouth and what's the other? I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Here in Hyannis, there are 2 other completed projects.
So in the pending projects that you have, projects in progress, thank you, Sarah. I just want to confirm, other than Forward's second phase, all the rest of those projects are within the town?
Correct, yes. And
okay, thank you.
The other, I can also just point out that the difference with those 2 projects, which are both located in Dennis, is that they are, they're special targeted populations, so veterans and folks with autism, so they are specialized housing. And
absolutely.
That's part of the reason why it makes good sense for those to be regional projects as opposed to just town.
I agree with you, and I've always been in support of those projects. I just, now that we're really needing to focus on Barnstable alone, I'm looking forward to seeing these projects in progress come to fruition.
All right, thank you for that. Anyone else? Anyone sensing a motion here for this? Or would you like to defer that till we hear from Mark Milne?
No, I think we need.
Meeting?
If I may, Lindsay, I think we need to go ahead with this. The only comment I would make is keeping track of the affordable units. I don't know if this is true now, but before, some affordable units, deed restricted units, were lost because nobody was keeping track of them. And this is not the trust job, I don't think, but somebody needs to keep track because it's easy to lose them. People don't do their due diligence. So that's just a comment aside, for the town mainly, not the trust. And number 2, I think if more people are coming to the trust, that's good. But I wonder about the market rate studies. Who's telling all these big developments that this many people want the market rate units? I mean, I can't imagine how many market rate units are going to be happening. And, you know, and very few really, because they only require 10%. Some have got a couple more. But, you know, who's going to live in these $3,000, $3,500 year round, supposedly? And who's going to keep track that they're really year round? So I think there's something for the town to do with some of the accountability of these developers that are getting money. And I think the trust has really tried to meet the need, and I think they are doing a good job, but there's a limitation on if people aren't coming through and what projects you're getting. So with that blathering done, I recommend that we move this on for to an is this an application or is this a
Yep.
application? Okay. Well,
You would need to make a motion for the amount and.
Well, $2.5 million to move forward to town council under housing. I think we need to do housing. I think the trust is the place, the entity in position to do it, and we need to move forward and keep a little bit in mind, like Stephen is suggesting, brainstorming a little bit. What's a little different? Who else owes land that's not being set aside for land trust? And what can we do? Do we need to build more ownership units? I mean, the housing authority has come to the conclusion we do, and we own land, so we can move forward with that. So that is something that we've talked a lot about. So anyway, so
right, so you have your motion?
I have my motion. I'm done, Lindsay. I'm sorry.
All right. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Stephen seconds. Further discussion among members? Seeing none, anyone here to comment on this application?
Laura,
you had your hand up?
Yes, Laura.
Go ahead. You're muted still. There you are.
There I am. I just wanted to respond to the questions that Mr. Robichaud had around first the inclusionary ordinance. It's my understanding that the planning department is, I'll say finally, I'll be editorialized, to do the economic feasibility study that needs to happen to indicate where the levels should be. And so I understand that they're looking at state funds to do that. First-time home buyers, the trust has committed funds to HAC's 50 condos on North Street and Stevens. That project is moving forward. That's for first-time home buyers. It is a little bit different in that it's 15 years restriction for full affordability, and then from year 16 to 30, it's a shared equity with the town, so they can sell it at market and split the equity, thereby giving them being able to build wealth like the rest of us do in our homes. And the transfer fee is something that hopefully is moving forward. Other funding sources, most towns on the Cape and Islands and Western Mass dedicate a portion of their short-term rental income for affordable housing. Barnstable doesn't. We need some advocacy to help convince the town to split that. I know we need wastewater money, but we also need housing. And I think that, I don't know if I got everything. I agree with you that the market is getting saturated with market units. I know that in those 12 that were on apartment.com doesn't have Hanover or 850, and their rents, their one bedrooms are $2,900. So,
wow.
You know, and $3,400 for a 2-bedroom. So, you know, that's why they have 70%
Yeah.
30% vacant. So anyway, thank you for,
Okay.
and
Thank
sorry
you.
to hold up your vote. I just wanted to clarify a couple things. Thanks.
No, thank you for that. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Everyone had a chance to speak? Anyone waiting to speak, Sarah?
Not for this item, thank you.
All right, thank you. So I guess we could call the roll, Ellen, on this.
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you folks for that presentation. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we moved on to correspondent received, which was none for this month, right, Ellen? We didn't get anything.
No.
Project updates. The Smiths Creek Conservation Restriction CPC application was approved at the April 17th Town Council hearing. Closing will be scheduled. The West Barnstable Railroad Depot restoration is scheduled for the Town Council public hearing June 5th. Along with the Cotuit High Ground Conservation Restriction is on June 5th. And so is the Hyannis Armory restoration scheduled for June 5th. So it'll be a busy night along with our budget.
Yep.
Conservation restriction for Haju and Prince Avenue are in the queue to get on a upcoming meeting agenda with the council. We'll see when those come through.
Yeah.
Consultant is about to begin work on the Form E associated with the letter of intent from the South Congregational Church. We heard from him, Ellen got an update that he's wrapping up a couple projects and he'll get that form done shortly. The consultant has begun work on the preservation restriction with the letter of intent for the Oddfellows, seeking CPC historic funds to preserve their building. And a visit to the Barnstable Historic Headquarters took place on May 7th. Additional bids for the installation of HVAC will be obtained for that system. Relocation of the remaining grant funds will be required through action of the town council. So we still need to get a price on that work and move that. Any questions? I miss anything? All right. Meeting format for July 21. It seems we want to have Mark Milne in to give us budget options.
Yeah.
We should do the remote.
Yeah. You want to do it in remote, folks?
Yes.
Remote format?
Yes.
Yes.
Fine with me.
All right. And then we wanted to do some type of housing update. We could try to pull that for the July 21st meeting. The other thing we need to schedule as well, which this could be the topic of our annual meeting, we're required to begin to plan for the upcoming year. We could put that into August or September and have the focus of our annual meeting this time around be housing.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right, let's do that then.
Okay.
And we'll need to set some time at the July meeting for the planning of that. So give yourself some time to think about it and see just what's out there, things that you'd like to see going forward. I'd like to see what the town's plan is with the housing production plan. You know, they're supposed to be working on that.
Right.
Maybe we get a presentation on that. Maybe get some feedback from the town council committee that did all of this work on the community housing, what they're thinking about for incentives, perhaps. We could work on that and maybe do something after Labor Day even to put something together.
Sounds great.
So anything else going forward?
Yes, Lindsay, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Catherine.
What is the status of the Historic Commission seat and the Recreation seat for Community Preservation Committee so that we can come around the quorum problem that we've been having.
I have heard of no nominations. Ellen, have you seen any in the town council coming forward, nominations through recreation or historic?
I haven't
Yes,
seen
Kristen.
nothing official. Oh,
Kristen's here.
Counselor, yes, the counselor
ahead,
had her
Kristen.
hand up. She probably knows.
Yeah, we have nominated and appointed people to both of those committees. So I think at this point, the question will be, are those new people willing to step up and be on two committees? I do know that when we interviewed those people, they expressed interest in serving on both of those committees. So you might want to double back with the chairs of those committees and see where that's at.
Very good.
And the
Excellent
other thing,
news.
I just wanted to note about the ad hoc housing committee work and the ad hoc zoning work. That's not really the topic here, but that there's discussion about having a discussion at town council as to how we will prioritize the recommendations in both of those ad hoc committees so that we can start either bringing forward agenda items for a vote or delegating a task, for further research and detail. So that is coming up, not this meeting, but potentially the next meeting.
Okay, excellent. Well, maybe we could get reported out on that when it's a little further along.
Yep.
Right.
After Labor Day, perhaps. Okay, excellent. Anything else? Ellen?
Lindsay, on the amended agenda, we had a vote for the use of administrative funds for Anthony's appraisal.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah. Yes.
It is on the amended agenda. It did get posted. We are okay to vote on that.
All right. They did, BLT wanted to partner with us on that appraisal?
Yes, it's a vote to use $2,250 in CPA administrative funds to pay 1/2 of the appraisal fee for Anthony's Cumberquid Inn property.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Any other discussion out there? Sarah? Seeing none, Ellen, would you poll the group?
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Deb Converth,
Yes.
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you
carries.
for that, Ellen. Appreciate that. Anything
You're
else?
welcome.
Just real quick. Lindsay,
Yes, go right ahead.
just a couple questions about, one question about the website. The website used to have members, like our names and when our term expires, and that I don't see that anymore. Do we know why?
No,
I
I don't.
I know
We
why.
didn't do it.
That's because the database that they keep that information is super old and outdated. So every time there's a change, Cindy has to coordinate with the website team to get that updated, and it's super complicated with 40 plus boards. It's a nightmare. So I agree, Steve. It's one of the things that bothers me, but it's just such an enormous task. I don't want to say it's not helpful or useful, but it's just,
Yeah.
we need a summer intern year round.
Oh, thank you for that. And
Thank you for that.
Is Councilor Turkelson our liaison?
That's right.
Oh,
Yes, I
good.
am posing as your liaison.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Posing.
Thank you for coming and for your input. That's wonderful. And we'll love to hear more from you as more of these items come before town council. So thank you.
My pleasure.
And then the last thing, Lindsay, is just we want Mark Marinaccio at the next meeting too.
Right. Right.
Yes,
Yep. That's all.
very good. Anything else, members? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second? I'll second it. Ellen, would you call the roll?
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
A little summer break, and
Yeah.
we'll see you in July.